Jillian, the lady of the hour, congratulations. You just passed the CTA Review Board. It took it when November 18th of last year, I believe, 2025. And just recently found out. So congrats. How does it feel?
Thank you. It feels good. It is a huge relief to finally be done. It was a long 2 years.
Well, 2 years. For me, it was three and a
Yeah.
half. So two years is actually pretty decent. So that is what I tell candidates when they ask me, "Oh, how long this is going to take?" I say it's an individual journey, but plan for 2 years, so on average. So how many times did you have to take it?
I sat for the board 3 times.
3 times. Okay. So no partial retakes anymore. So these were all full. I was going to say full mocks, but really full boards.
Well, real thing.
Real,
Yeah.
real thing. Okay. And so I'm not going to ask you anything that is covered by the NDA, but you had 3 judges every single time. Did you have any repeat judges?
I did, yes. There was some overlap across all three.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I think is pretty common. All right. So what would you say is like the biggest benefit so far now that you've had a little time to decompress? Like, I don't know if you count the time that you've been waiting, about 2 months, to find out if that's decompression or not.
It was a different type of stress, I think,
Mm-hmm.
over the past couple of months. It was 7 weeks that I waited for my results the last time. So obviously I wasn't studying. I knew in my mind that I probably wasn't going to try a fourth time, or at least I wasn't going to try right away.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had failed this third time, I wasn't worried about continuing to study or do mocks or anything. So from that perspective, I was able to relax and have more free time. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like a full 360 in term or 180 in terms of like,
Woohoo!
okay, I'm moving on with my life. I wasn't quite moving on yet.
Yeah, and then we had the holiday season too. So you went on
Yeah.
vacation. You were hoping to celebrate while you were on vacation, but I hope you celebrated, Christmas, New Year's, just not CTA yet.
Yes, I still enjoyed the holidays. I still enjoyed my vacation. I would have enjoyed it more if if I was also knowing that I was a CTA then. Uh, but it was a good distraction.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
at least now it's like a whole new chapter in your life. So I know you kind of probably feeling, all right, so now I passed, I got my email and I posted on LinkedIn, but where's my certification verification on Salesforce website, and where's my actual certificate with the number and the date? So that hasn't come yet, right?
Right. So if anyone wants to fact check me and go look at my certification verification, it will not say that I am a CTA right now. I'm not
Okay.
lying, but they haven't done that part yet. So that'll be the final thing to kind of tie it all together.
Well, and for some people it comes right away, and for some people it takes time. But basically, it kind of comes in waves and batches. I'm sure the architect team has to do something on the back end to like really make sure. And then I will make sure I'll reach out to the organizers of the secret LinkedIn group, which is CTA only, to make sure you get inducted there, because that's the first thing they're going to do is to make sure that you are an actual CTA.
Oh,
It took over a year for me, but I didn't even know that existed. That's how secret it is.
I didn't
But
either. So I
yeah,
look forward to
yeah,
that.
there you go. Not much happens there, but there's over 200 people, which is
Cool.
actually more members there than we have in the Architect Ohana as far as CTAs go.
Hmm.
I did ask Salesforce about that some time ago. If it's something that's mentioned in the official study guide, then it's fair game. And I would assume that, well, if you do mention it as your solution on the board, it's you're not expected to know it, but if it makes sense, then probably I would personally venture a guess, just a guess, right? That usually when we say Salesforce chat, now that's a deprecated feature. Now we've been saying messaging for in-app and web, just simply because it's a new product and it's on Hyperforce. And now maybe instead of saying, well, I'm going to use Meow, Agentforce is a more appropriate choice. Something small like that. Would you agree?
For sure. Yeah. Like I wouldn't, go overboard trying to be an expert in those areas, because it's not going to be like a major component. But small things like that, being able to recommend it, it's only going to show that you're in touch with what's going on, right?
Yeah, and it's important to kind of be an expert for the real world solutions.
Yeah.
Data Cloud and Agentforce. All right. So what made you want to become a CTA in the first place?
That's a really good question. And my answer is kind of silly. Well, I guess maybe it's twofold too. One was that I was kind of bored.
Okay. That's a good reason.
I was looking for a challenge, right? And I didn't know kind of like what was next for me. And my employer was like, well, get a new certification. And I was like, well, I already have a lot of certifications. And we kind of had this conversation of like, well, what about CTA? And that's what made me start researching it initially and learning more what was entailed in getting it and what it was all about. And then the more I learned, the more I realized like this is directly related to what I do on a day-to-day basis as an architect, and I want to be a better architect. And so it just kind of made sense for me.
Okay. So does that mean you're going to get bored again?
Maybe.
Now that you have it?
Yeah,
So
we'll have to figure out what my next new challenge is. I joked with my sister that maybe I'll take up like bodybuilding or something, but we'll see.
That's more for the body, maybe for the soul, but what about for the mind, right?
Yeah,
so don't worry,
sure.
we'll come up with something for you. We'll come up with something. I mean, we can join the Lucid CTA coaching program and coach somebody and be a guest judge or something like that.
Yeah.
So that never gets old. So all right. Cool. And so when you started, did you go through any kind of formal schooling? Did you start by yourself, or did you join the group right away?
I reached out to a few people I knew, specifically Melissa Shepard. She goes to the Boston user group meetups that I go to. And so I kind of asked her, like, how do I get started? And so, of course, the first thing she said was join the Slack, the Architect Ohana channel.
Which
so
she started, so that's convenient.
Yeah, yeah. And I just tried to reach out to people via Slack, and ask a lot of questions. I joined like a really small study group that didn't end up being like very successful. None of us really knew what we were doing. And we were trying to present mocks for each other, but we were all just like not even able to finish one of the small ones. Like we were really fumbling. And so that's when I started reaching out to find like official one-on-one coaching.
Okay. And that obviously made a difference, right?
For sure. Yeah. That's really what got me to the point where I felt like I could get through a scenario, really.
Oh, okay. So the first step was to get through the 1 hour evaluation size mock.
Yeah.
Like the Patient Travel Support Foundation.
And actually be able to solve every bullet.
Every requirement. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how quickly did you see a difference from the coaching?
I'd say after like maybe a handful of sessions, I was like feeling really good. Not like confident like I could take this test tomorrow, but I felt like I was headed down the right path.
Oh yeah, I remember that feeling though. That was very good. I remember one of my first mocks, I was basically like, oh, this one's not important. So I was skipping a bunch of requirements thinking like, this is obvious, right? And then I was like, you actually have to solve every single one.
Yeah, yeah. And, even though it says it's a 3-hour solve, I had to set aside 6 or 7 hours in the
Hmm.
beginning to solve them for sure. And that was a big learning for me because I would sign up to present and I'd think, oh, I'm just going to solve it right before the study group session, and I wouldn't even be close to finishing them.
Hmm.
Um, so once I started giving myself a full day to start solving the longer ones,
Hmm.
I started making a lot more progress because I was actually forcing myself to solve every requirement
Hmm.
rather than just seeing how far I could get in an hour or in the 3 hours.
So that's so would you say that's advice to those who are starting out or whoever is struggling with trying to finish on time? It's just like give yourself a bit more time, but not too much.
Yeah, my advice would be give yourself as much time that you need to actually solve it,
Hmm.
but don't overthink it, you know. I did find myself doing that a lot too, where I was striving for perfection
Hmm.
and I was taking 7 or 8 hours to solve because I wasn't just solving and moving on to the next thing. I was sitting there really analyzing every single requirement. Uh, so it's the balance, right?
Hmm.
Between getting through everything, but getting through it quickly.
So that comes with time as well. So,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like 7 or 8 hours like of continuous solving, right? So you're not gonna get up
I
from your
took
desk,
breaks. Yeah. Yeah.
right? You took breaks. Have you ever done it where you would start solving one day and then maybe finish the next or a couple of days later?
I think I did in the beginning. I found it really difficult though, because if I went and did other things and maybe I was doing some work or something, I would really want to like Google and research the answers. And I had to stop myself. um, you know, if you are really in the beginning of your journey, there's probably nothing wrong with doing that to a certain extent,
Hmm.
because if you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, taking breaks and doing it the next day was something I tried to avoid.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So for continuity, so you don't lose that thread, the mental thread that you have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even when I solved mocks, I close my door, I turn off all of my alerts, I turn off my phone. I had zero distractions. And so I definitely highly recommend that.
Zero distractions. Okay.
Yeah.
Were you ever listening to any kind of background music like Brain FM or anything, ASMR,
No,
whatever?
I do better if I don't have any background music when I'm reading.
Hmm.
And so I didn't. I used to play some pump up music though right before my presentations, and
Okay.
that would help me.
Pump up music and then maybe
Yeah.
cool down music after you're done.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like a workout, but it's the workout for the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also a little um hesitant and timid about presenting at first too.
Hmm.
I was really nervous. Um and so I did have to kind of like hype myself up for it, the first couple of months. It was a big deal every
Yeah.
time I had to present, but you just get used to it.
And so what would cause that nervousness while, presenting? Because that's a barrier for a lot of people. They just feel so uncomfortable and they get almost paralyzed, and then they just don't do the mocks. And if you don't do the mocks, you'll never get there.
Yeah, I think, I had in my head my standard for how I would present to a client or how I might present on a webinar.
Hmm.
And I knew that I couldn't achieve that with these types of presentations, and that really bothered me, that
Hmm.
I couldn't be perfect. Chances are there was something wrong in my solution,
Hmm.
right? And that made me feel really uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I just had to learn to understand that this is just so different. It's so different than if you're presenting to a real client.
Hmm.
Like, you can't practice, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So
You can't run your ideas by your team. You can't make beautiful slides and, speaker notes. And so it's just a sort of like mental switch that I had to work on.
Okay, so then this required for you to not only step out of the comfort zone, but to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get comfortable being wrong.
being wrong, failing basically all the time.
Yeah.
Were you able to separate the feeling of I failed at something from like I failed, as a human being?
Yeah, I think everyone was so supportive though. So even if I had some like really tough judges, or if my scenario was just like, or my solution was just totally off the rails, like not hitting the mark, the people that I was preparing with didn't make me feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they often, especially in the beginning, would offer to like talk me through it. Hey, this is how I solved it. And I think just like the supportive community helped me not feel like, okay, I can't do this. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that I failed as a person. It was just that I still have a lot of practice and preparation to go.
Was it important to know that you are not alone in this journey, that you have others who are actually going down their own path and they're willing to support each other?
For sure. Especially in my the evening study group that I ended up we got together almost like four nights a week, I think, for like
Wow.
a good solid year. And it was this core group of people. And we were all basically at very similar points in the journey. And without finding like those right people to study with and also just to vent to
Mm-hmm.
and to have conversations like we are right now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could have been as successful as I was.
And so, how would you know that these are the quote unquote right people in the group? It doesn't mean that they show up consistently, everybody does mocks, they take turns, they contribute something, or is it something else that's hard to, put your finger on?
Yeah, part of me thinks I just got really lucky, but we did put in place so me and two other people started this group, and we put in place some rules, some guidelines,
Okay.
where we said if you want to be in our study group, this is how it works. You have to participate to a certain extent. You have to, you know, judge if you're going to be a presenter.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like really structured with the way the study group worked. And so the people who weren't the right people just kind of naturally got weeded out.
So they cut themselves.
Yeah, we would
Okay.
let pretty much like literally anybody join, but people would either embrace our approach or they'd be like, oh, yeah, this isn't working for me, and they would leave. So,
Okay. So how many people did you have? You said
um,
like the core group that stuck together for a while.
yeah, like 6 to 8 people were
Oh, okay.
very, very consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding that the optimal size is about 6. At one point, I had a group that mushroomed to about 20 people,
Mm.
and that's too many. So on one hand, you know that you've got people who are, I mean, somebody's going to join, right? So you're going to have a few people for sure. But it's important that maybe it's a smaller group of people, but they join consistently and so on. So did you guys name your group something?
Eastern Standard Time evening study group.
I see. Okay, that just rolls off the tongue.
We weren't very creative.
Was everybody from the East Coast of the United States, or did you have people from overseas?
We had a few people who were overseas and who were just kind of doing an inverse schedule to us. And then we have some folks in Canada as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Canada is not too bad, but I remember I at some point had one guy who became a CTA, Isaac. He was in on the West Coast and state of Washington, and so he would be joining at 5 a.m. his time. And then I had at least one person, Kaushik, who was in Sydney, Australia. And for him, it was something like 10 p.m. And for me, it was 8 a.m., which was convenient, very convenient. So 8:15 or so. So for you guys, it was in the evening. Did you try studying in the morning and as well as in the evening? And so what works better for you, like fresh mind, or you're like done with work for the day?
I personally enjoyed the mornings better, and that was the first study group that just didn't quite last. Um, However, we were able to get more people interested in the evening time slot, so that's just what we went with.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
After everyone puts their kids to bed and has had dinner, then it was study time.
Study time. So that included the mocks and the judging and the feedback and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we did a mix. So sometimes we would have just like topic sessions where someone would take the lead and we would do a deep dive into a particular topic, and you know, we'd all kind of be creating our own sort of like notes and cheat sheets and study sheets on the side, based on these presentations. But I would say probably 75% of our sessions were actual mock.
Oh, 75. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you find that the most helpful thing in order to discover your gaps, and then you do another mock and say, all right, that looks like I'm solid on this, I close that gap? Because what I've seen folks do is they would delay the mocks and they would just say, okay, I'm getting ready for the mock. And that would last like 4 or 5 months. And then they would start the mock and to realize that it really didn't help. There's no substitute for doing a mock and discovering your gaps like almost immediately. So do you agree, disagree? How was it for you?
Totally agree. That was some advice I actually just gave to someone the other day, is just try a presentation, try a solutioning a mock and presenting it, even if it's just to your dog or something, right?
Okay.
And just see how it goes, and jump right into it, because you have nothing to lose. And
Just the
then
time,
you can self-assess, and you can have your the community help give you guidance on what you should be focused on.
Did you listen to your own recordings? Did you view your own presentations later?
I did in the beginning a lot. I hated it, but I did. Yeah.
So what did you hate about it?
I think a lot of people say this too, is that you don't realize what your own voice sounds like until you hear a recording of yourself. And I also noticed a lot of my sort of like nervous quirks, where I'd be maybe both verbally, saying a lot or things like that, but also like fidgeting around and touching my hair and things like that. But it was helpful because those are things that I wanted to work on and improve. And so if I hadn't watched those recordings, I wouldn't be aware of them.
And so were you speaking at first in longer sentences? Let's say somebody asks you a question during Q&A. Would it take you longer to answer than it took you, it would take you now, like basically after all this experience, after 3 boards?
Yes, I would. In the beginning, for sure, I would kind of sit there and think, and then I would talk through my thought process, and I would look at the ceiling and I would say, well, this is why I think this, right? Because I was unsure of my answer a lot of the times, but I also I didn't have that skill to be confident and concise. And that was something that I really worked on towards the end, was practicing the whole concept of Q&A, because speed during the Q&A is important so that they can get through all of their questions.
Right.
So trying to be less verbose was definitely something that took a lot of time.
And also, I would say, not just being verbose, but knowing how deep to go when you're answering the question. Would you say that's also, is that's an acquired skill, right?
For sure.
Okay. So now imagine that you're listening to your own recording, but you know that you're going to put it out on YouTube. And right now I use a professional video editor, which also translates voice to text. And then you can read it and erase whatever text you don't want, and then it's going to cut it for you. But the one feature that it has, it detects all the filler words and the pauses and automatically gives you a count. So for one of the latest recordings, I saw something like 518 of those. That's front and center, so you don't even realize, but that goes away after a certain period of time, right? And that's, would you say that's an absolute must, or if you still use filler words but you speak faster, would that still allow you to pass?
For sure. Like, I don't think I ever got to the point where I didn't use filler words at all, right? I improved, but
That's normal.
I certainly still do. And I think the most important thing is that you're coming off as confident and that you can get through everything that you want to say so that you're not taking too long to be able to say things.
Okay, so you have to kind of think it through, maybe not give immediate response, but you can't wait too long before you start speaking, because then you use the valuable time, right?
Yeah, if you really need time to think on it, my advice is to say, can we come back to this later? And I think I did do that once in Q&A, and it worked out, and they actually did ask a few questions, and they came back to that original question, and I had a little bit of time to kind of let my brain process what they were asking, because I was thrown off by the question, and I think it worked out okay.
Gotcha. You just don't know. I remember when you were done with your board and I said, so how did it go? It was maybe like 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
And you're just like, could go either way, 50-50.
Right. Yeah, it is really hard to read. They don't really give you any hints.
Well, that's kind of part of the journey. It's one of those trials that you have to go through. How many years of experience did you have before you started? Salesforce experience.
Yeah, in the Salesforce ecosystem as a whole, roughly 10, just
10
under
years.
10.
So now you're at 12. Okay. And did you ever feel like, well, I should knock this out because I've got 10 years experience and I just went through all these exams, multiple choice exams, and I'm now the application architect, I'm the systems architect, I've got the prerequisites, so this should be like the next logical thing. I'm good to go.
I think I may have had that mindset very briefly in the beginning, but it went away pretty quickly once I realized what this was going to take.
So once the rubber hit the road, you're like, oops.
Yeah, once I started trying solutioning and presenting, and I was like, oh boy, this is going to be hard.
So what was the number one challenge for you as you started and you just realized, so whatever I learned, is it applicable even, or did you have to restudy stuff? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, there were certain areas where I definitely needed to hone in some technical skills. I don't come from a developer background. I was more of an admin and
Me too.
like solution architect. So there were especially like the identity management areas where I really dove deep into studying that. And that was a big, big challenge for me. It was just something that I had very minimal exposure to prior.
Yep,
so I did Udemy classes and I did all of this extra stuff to try to be an expert in that area.
Did you have to use any kind of rote memorization, so like memorize the identity flows? Is that something you just commit to memory?
I tried not to memorize the flow, like just through like memory mechanisms, but more so by doing it. So the concepts of why it works that way were more important, I think, than just memorizing the flow. And so I tried that approach instead.
So basically, tying it to requirements is important, but also telling the story of what happens, like what happens for the user. Let's say they're trying to log into Salesforce using SAML. And how do you explain the relay state, for instance, in a vacuum? It's pretty hard now.
Yeah, it's like you can regurgitate what you have memorized from Cloud Sundial, and
Right.
anybody can memorize words, right? But then if you're actually, I realized pretty quickly, if you're actually asked a question about those words that you just regurgitated, if it is just memorization, then you're gonna struggle more with answering any real questions about it.
Yeah, I shouldn't ask you if you had to use that knowledge on the board, but it certainly probably made you feel more confident that if you had to, you could do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that there are certain areas that we all study because they are within scope of the exam that maybe some you don't need to go as deep as others, but having a deep dive into everything gave me a comfort level that I needed.
So I'm not going to do this, but if I asked you to draw a diagram of like SAML or OIDC social, like you could probably do it right now, yes?
I think I still could. Although I think my memory is not as great as I want it to be. I need to keep doing things every day for those types of things to really stick with me.
I see.
That was important. I actually practiced my OIDC, my SAML, my I had chosen like a top four, I think,
Web
the web
server
server
probably.
flow, and I did them every morning before I started work in
Oh,
Lucid.
okay.
And I just was like, this is what I do with my coffee. I'm sorry. Okay.
Did the cat also earn the credential right along with you?
She was a big help, yes.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so you say about what five or six major flows that you had to be comfortable with?
Yeah, and I kind of just chose the ones that seemed to pop up most common in the scenarios that I had been practicing. And I just honed in on those and made sure that I could explain them in my sleep.
Okay, probably like jot bearer, but not so much SAML bearer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy one. So then, okay. Well, to pivot away from the flows, so identity, I think I'm hearing it time and again that this is usually the most challenging sections for anybody who's preparing even to pass the system architect domain. That's the last exam that they would take. It was like that for me. So what would be your advice if folks say like, I'll never get this, and if I can't get this, so I'll never pass the CTA, so I'm not even going to try? Is there like some kind of a mind shift that you can achieve in order for that not to become a barrier anymore?
Totally. If I could do it from the total lack of knowledge in that area, right? And if I could get to where I am now, anyone can. I think you might have to think a little outside the box, right? And it's not just studying Trailhead and reading what's in the Tahim Bahari book. Like I had to seek out external resources and online courses and things to really like boost up certain technical skill sets that I was lacking. But if you're willing, it's 100% possible.
It's doable.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I want to make sure that I don't forget to ask you. You did mention cheat sheets that you were putting together your own and also the group members. How important is that to build your own package of cheat sheets from scratch, even though there's just so much available right now in the public domain?
I found it really helpful, especially because it helped me find my own style of how I like to solve things, or
Mm-hmm.
how I personally feel comfortable explaining or answering questions about certain topics. So like if you had a cheat sheet on the same exact topic, you might write in little notes that are just a little bit different than my notes. And it really helped me not memorize per se, but get into a comfortable rhythm of talking about certain topics in my own way and in my
Mm-hmm.
own words.
Okay, so you basically developed your own style of the presentation, you felt comfortable with that. So those folks who say, well, I'll just use somebody else's cheat sheet, are they actually cheating themselves?
Yeah, you're not going to get the same thing out of it for sure,
Okay.
right? You're at that point you might as well just be like reading a book.
Mhm.
The
Which is also important, right? There's at least
yeah,
one good book
yeah,
out there.
yeah. But putting together your own study materials requires an actual understanding of the material. So you're forcing yourself to learn it rather than just, read about it. It's two different things.
And did you ever make these presentations to various groups on a particular study area? Just referring to the Feynman method. If you can teach it, then you know the
Mm.
material. Did you ever take advantage of that?
Yeah, we did that a lot in our study group. So even if it was a topic, or actually usually it was a topic that I didn't know very well,
Hmm.
I I would set out to say, okay, I'm going to study this topic this week,
Hmm.
and I am going to teach you all what I learned.
Okay.
And it was always collaborative type presentations within our group, but it was a really good way to make sure that if I could explain it to my study group, then I could probably explain it to a judge.
To a judge. Okay. And let's talk about code. So there's that preconceived notion that a lot of people have that you have to know code in order to pass the CTA review board. And you said that you were coming from an admin background, so I'm assuming it was like almost no code, right? It's all declarative solutions.
Yeah, I mean, I dabble on occasion, right? More so as I got a little bit further along in my career, and I started getting, I got the platform developer cert, of course. But yeah, I don't come from an engineering background, and I was nervous about that at first,
Mhm.
because a lot of people did say that the most successful CTAs are developers, or you'll find it easier to become a CTA if you're a developer. But as I got into what it actually takes to solution
Mhm.
a scenario, I don't really think that that's true.
Mhm.
You do have to be aware of certain concepts and best practices so that, as an architect, you could lead or guide a team of developers, but it doesn't mean you have to be the one writing the code.
Or doing code reviews, even.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's important, but I also heard from many talented developers who got on the CTA journey. They said that was almost a handicap. So they would tend to solve any problem with code and efficiency. And of course, you can read the code, you can create tests and make sure that it actually works and debug. But they didn't know the declarative methods. So they would have
Mm-hmm.
to learn all of those things that are quite second nature to admins and solution architects. So that they almost felt like I can't use a lot of the knowledge that I have on the board because there's just not enough time to go line by line and figure out all the methods and frameworks and so on and so forth.
For sure. And, a lot of people will recommend starting with declarative solutions first, as just a general rule when you're solutioning a scenario. So you definitely have to have a really strong foundation of that, more so than being able to deep dive into specifics of coding. Yeah.
So I suppose the message to the public at large should be not knowing code shouldn't hold you back from becoming a CTA.
Right.
All right. So cool.
You mean you have to pass the platform developer cert, you have to have the basics. But
yeah, but that cert does not require you to actually write code. I mean, you have to read code, but it's still multiple choice. You don't have to write a single line of code like PD2 does, right? But not this one. All right. Now, let me ask you, what role, if any, did the actual CTAs play in your preparation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one would be as a formal coach, as a paid coach. But I also had some CTAs who I was lucky enough to have just met along the way, who were kind of just good mentors, provided advice and encouragement that I very much needed. And actually, some were even willing to act as a judge right before my review board out of the kindness of their heart. So I found, a good handful of people that were really in my camp supporting me.
And did you notice any particular difference between, let's say, a volunteer, a CTA coach versus a paid coach?
Yes. I think if you're working with a paid coach, in my experience, there was a lot more attention to detail in the feedback that was given. And a lot more direct feedback too. Whereas, and this isn't like in any way a negative remark, but the volunteer CTAs who were just giving me their time were a lot more surface level feedback, kind of like
the encouragement to like, hey, keep going, right?
Yeah, but they were not diving into why, my integration pattern wasn't the right integration pattern or something like that. Yeah.
Well, we spent quite a few hours together, and I was your official paid coach. And so what did you find more helpful? So we've done a mock, and then we would do a coaching session based on that mock to identify the gaps and close and just go double click, triple click into certain areas. Did you find the mock itself more helpful versus the actual coaching session that would follow?
For sure, the coaching and feedback session, I think it gave us the opportunity to talk through specific requirements, and even sometimes almost to the point debate a little bit, like what was the most ideal solution versus the suboptimal solution, and really talk through all of the possible options. And that was helpful for me to start like expanding my thinking a little bit more compared to what you get if you're just doing the presentation and then the 40 minutes of Q&A and 15 minutes of feedback, which is really quite short. With a regular mock, you don't get to go into that level of detail.
And so what would you say I'll give you a couple of options, of course. If that's not it, you tell me if there's anything else that I'm not thinking about. So let's say you go through a few mocks and coaching sessions interspersed, so you don't necessarily do the mocks back to back. There's always a coaching session in between. Would you notice that you're learning faster, or do you know what to focus on versus not worry about? Does it give you comfort that you know you're going in the right path versus you're deviating and now you need to stop deviating and this is how you get on the right path? Any of those things, did you experience that with the actual with coaching? Because you have more than
Yeah,
one
for
paid
sure.
coach, right?
And I think that it was always an up and down too,
Okay.
because there were times where I felt like I had a clear path and I knew what I needed to work on. And I would kind of meet that milestone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd go through another cycle and I'd realize, well, now I need to work on this whole new set of things to
Mm-hmm.
continue improving. And I think it was those types of sessions that helped me identify that.
Was it always about the actual technical knowledge, or were there other things that you would focus on with your coaches?
I think in the beginning it was a lot more of the technical as well as the, I guess, sort of like
Techniques?
the artifacts, and yeah, exactly, like how you're going about presenting
Mm-hmm.
and just getting that structure in place that works for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you know, things progressed, I think it was more about presentation style, uh, optimizing the solutioning. While something was technically right, could it have been better? It was more those types of discussions.
Fine-tuning things.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't remember if we talked about something like expecting the unexpected. Let's say the computer shuts off, or all of a sudden you have like this extreme lag when you're trying to use Lucid Chart. Uh, were any of those things practiced at all?
um no, not directly. I did
Mm-hmm.
practice um doing my solutioning and presenting it via a remote desktop just to
Okay.
get used to the lag, but I didn't practice if something went wrong.
Yeah, I guess there could be so many things. And was that helpful to actually simulate the whole environment where you have the remote desktop, a little bit of a lag here? Even if you have a giant screen, you're only using like a small portion of that screen or on the laptop. Were those things helpful?
Yeah, for sure. I think that at the time I was really specific about timing myself,
Hmm.
and I would know at this exact minute I should be done reading the scenario and doing my, initial notes, and I should be already starting my artifacts or whatever it might be. But that timing totally shifted
Hmm.
when I started practicing in the remote desktop because it was just like a little bit different.
Hmm. Okay,
So I
so
had
that's
to be
important.
able to be comfortable with things taking a little bit longer.
I see. Did you ever get this kind of feedback from your either one of your coach, like Jillian, you have to stop doing this, or you have to start doing what you're not doing? Do you ever get that kind of prescriptive feedback that made a difference?
I'm trying to think if there was anything specific. Are you thinking of something
No,
specific?
no, no.
Because I don't
So
think, yeah, I don't think it was like that. I think that um you and the other CTA coaches were really it's not prescriptive, right?
right.
Like everyone has their own style, everyone has their own approaches to solutioning, and I think like you were aware of that in the way that you gave feedback.
Yeah, I just remember I'm thinking back on my own prep. There was a time where my coach said, "Listen, you can't confuse SAML assertions with OAuth tokens. There are no OAuth tokens in SAML, so you can't afford these kinds of goofs
Mm,
because you're going to put your whole identity section, security section in jeopardy. Like the judges will probably doubt and they'll have to spend more time on this." So that was very prescriptive, and that kind of stuck in my head. I've been a CTA now for but almost 2 years, and it's still stuck. It was kind of like, okay, this is a oh my god moment. So nothing like that with you. So you're
There
further along.
probably was, and I just don't remember.
Okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. And so, do you think you could have passed without getting any kind of a paid coach? Like, is that even necessary, or is it more of a nice to have?
I like to think that I could have, but it most certainly would have taken me a lot longer to get here for sure. It improved like my acceleration towards being like just being able to start focusing on timing and style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you need to get to start to feel like you're ready to sign up for the evaluation and things like that in my mind. Once you're just rolling through, busting out solutions every week or 2 times a week or 3 times a week, and you're just in that refinement mode, that's like the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would have taken a lot longer to get there without the coaches.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have 5 minutes left. I wanted to ask you, how does it feel to fail a board? And what does it take for you to actually summon your strength and do it again, rather than say that's it, like I've had it, there's no more.
Yeah.
I don't have any gas left.
The first fail was like, okay, I was really close. I'd only failed one section. Oof, and I looked at it as a win.
Okay.
I said, if I can be this close, then of course I'm going to pass the next time. So I was actually like feeling pretty good the first time.
And the second time?
Second time I failed every section except for communication. And so it was very different. And it was a little discouraging for a while, and you know that. But my mindset was, I've come this far, and I know I can do this. And it would be insane of me to give up. I just felt like I had committed too much time, and I had learned everything I needed to learn, and that day just didn't go my way, but it wasn't necessarily a reflection of my ability.
So there's probably an element of luck associated with the exam, right? There's some things that you just cannot control, and you have to accept that, right?
Exactly. I mean, it wasn't easy. I say this now like, oh my gosh, I'm so wise, right? Like so emotionally in tune. But no, I was very upset, and it took me a little while to kind of just bounce back.
Got it. Well, you did bounce back, and now you don't have to worry about that. So that's thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the honesty. All right. So so we'll review the recording. The whole intention was to make it available for others so that they could gain something from this and hopefully get inspired, or start or continue, or not give up. So each outcome will be so individual. So thank you for making yourself available for this session. And to all the others who joined, thank you guys. We'll let you know in short order. It'll probably take more than a week for us to process this, because we're going to Architect Dreaming Cactus Force in Arizona next week, or maybe we'll just buckle down and do it over the weekend. I don't know. So we'll have to see. And please, obviously you and I are going to keep in touch, but I'd be surprised if you yourself didn't try to at least help others pass, because is that something that is common across all CTAs? Like, all right, now I did it, now I'll make sure that my buddies pass and beyond.
Yeah, especially that core group that I mentioned, right? There are still a couple of people who are in the process, so I do want to help see them be successful too. So if you're watching, you know who you are.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks again. I'll see you soon and really appreciate you being available this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Svet. Thanks everyone for joining.
All right. Ciao. Take care.
Bye.